All right, welcome to this episode of the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show. Y'all, I am so excited to be back with you. There are so many things that have been going on in our country, and we're also butting up against Valentine's Day, which is tomorrow. And so I just cannot think of a better person to be with us, none other than Dr. Gail Crowder. We are going to be getting into navigating workplace relationships in uncertain times. And let me just tell you, these times be uncertain. We're going to talk about it right after this. Dr. Crowder.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am so excited. This is the month of love, and I just get to do what I love to do. I mean, I do what I do every single day, but just, be on your show. I thank you for having me each year to talk about healthy relationships. I truly appreciate you.
Absolutely. And, right now, I'm so glad we was able to get you, honey, because you are busy.
This is true, but I will always make room for people who made room for me when I was not busy. So
I love it. I love it. Well, as you mentioned, this is the month of love. But a lot of people ain't feeling love right now, right?
No, they're not, unfortunately.
But we're gonna talk about that in a minute. But before we just dive in, I want you to just give people a little snapshot of who you are so that they know who is having this important conversation with me.
Well, I'm a relationship expert. I have been in this space for over 20 years, and I'm a licensed sexologist as well. And so I really help couples navigate their relationship, their marriages, and those kind of things. So I've been in this space a long, long time. So that's just a brief thing. I don't want to go into all the other stuff.
I mean, I know this is, and the reason why I know you are super busy is because, you mentioned that you're a licensed sexologist and this is the time, right? Valentine's Day is for people, people are trying to figure out their relationships, their intimate relationships, in love and in the bedroom and all that kind of stuff. And you're so amazing at that. So I don't want that to go over people's heads as we talk about this, the topic for today. You're really amazing at helping married couples rekindle in the bedroom and also just, in life in general. So
yeah. And the thing is that we're in relationship everywhere we go. You know what I mean? We really are. And so life to me is a one big perpetual relationship. When you go to Walmart or wherever you shop, you're in relationship with that other person that is, ringing up your stuff. You just don't realize it, but you are, because it's a transaction that's going on. And to me, relationships are transactional. Some are, but we're in relationship everywhere we go because we have to interact with one another, right?
We really
and
do.
So it is really true that we're having relationships sometimes that we don't even realize that we're having.
Yeah, you're so right. Some of us having relationships we don't want to have, right? But we have to, because we either work with these people or we're family with these people and all that kind of stuff. So tell us what your biggest superpower is.
My biggest superpower is restoring broken and sexless marriages. That's my superpower.
Listen, and I'm so excited because you're actually you have a show that may be coming out soon.
Now, maybe it is coming out. It's going to be coming out.
Yeah,
I'm standing on that. Yes.
Okay, I'm with you on that, and so that show will highlight your work in terms of the couples that you work with and restoring their broken and sexless marriages. So we'll talk about some of that towards the end. But listen,
okay,
it be rough in these streets right now.
yes.
As you know, of course, I'm a coach and I do a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And I do a lot of leadership work in organizations. And today's, political climate has absolutely caused our country to be in an uproar in the sense that there's a lot of negative things that are impacting so many of us. I know that I've been working in a lot of organizations and been talking to a lot of leaders in organizations, and a lot of people are fearful, they're uncertain about their future and everything like that. And of course, when we're always fearful or uncertain, things start to fall apart with our communication and just kind of like how we operate in the workplace. And so I really wanted to have this conversation with you about how do you really navigate workplace relationships, because I think it's so so very important. So as you are a professional in terms of like working with people in relationships, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see professionals face in the workplace around relationships as it pertains to what we're going through right now?
Well, right now, I feel the climate. And I, like I said, I have worked in the, professional sector, and I have went into corporations talking about communication and those kind of things. But right now in this climate, people are in a space trying to figure out in their workspace, who can I trust? Who can I be vulnerable in front of, right? Because the thing is right now, if people are on edge and they feel if I say one wrong thing or I do one wrong thing, or if I state my opinion and I don't agree with you, that my job, my career, my everything is at stake, right? Because again, is this climate is you go to work today and tomorrow you might not have a job, right? And so right now it's trying to navigate those relationships to really see where am I and where do I fit in this space. And that's a hard place to be because it's constantly changing. And who can I really trust and be vulnerable with in this space?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I truly, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I mean, like I said, I was just on a call the other day and people were just talking about this climate and that they feel like it's hard to trust, to trust anybody, or definitely hard to trust people outside of your organization in terms of just really being able to show up and ask questions and everything like that. So if that's the question, right? If we're asking who can we trust, what do we do around that? Like even within our organization, what do we do around the trust question?
Well, for my suggestion to someone, if you're in a space where you don't feel comfortable and you don't, trust maybe your boss or maybe your coworker that you used to confide in and those kind of things, is go to the manual, right? Every company has a manual, right? And my thing is pull back from being so open and start going by the manual, right? Because in this climate, everybody's trying to buy and figure out their space. And it could be some things going on that you're not aware of. And if you say the wrong thing, then that opens the door for them to say, oh, this person said this, we don't agree with that or whatever. So I say, go look at the company policy in the manual and try to stick to that as much as possible. So therefore it negates anything being said or done that's outside the policy of the company.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that idea because at the end of the day, regardless of what's going on in our country, every company has a manual. Everybody has something that you can go through and say, I'm following the book. I'm following what our guidelines that have already been written out is saying, right? Now, of course, you're right. Although some people may be doing that within their companies, what would you say to somebody where potentially the leadership is not honoring what has already been written, right? And that's happening, right? In a lot of
Yes, it is, because everybody's trying to, like you say, state their claim and show that they're valuable, they're needed, they're wanted, and those kind of things. When it comes to that, that's a hard place to be, right? And everybody's going to handle it a little bit different. My thing is not there's a good and a bad to that. My thing is stay engaged. And when I mean stay engaged, show up for the meetings, ask meaningful questions that fit within the guidelines of the company, so you can be abreast and they know that you are aware that this is what the company is saying. But also stay engaged. I say don't go silent, because when you go silent, that opens the door for them to leave you out of the conversation and not include you.
Yeah.
So that is my thing is understand the company policy, stay engaged, and when you do engage, ask meaningful questions that will put you in the conversation.
I love that. And thank you for joining us live, Nicole. Appreciate you
Yes.
being here. If you are joining us live on the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show, drop your name in the chat, and we would love for you to say hello. And if you have any questions, let us know. But I love that, right? Because it's true. If you stay silent, you risk being left behind or not being in the conversation. But I also have heard the opposite argument. If I say something, I risk a reprisal, right? I risk people, leadership, jumping back at me and stuff like that. But here's what I've learned about some of that. In some organizations, leadership, just as much as anybody else, they don't have all the answers either.
Nope.
Right. Like, and I even told one of my client organizations, let everybody know that you don't have all the answers. Because if your employees are looking for you to have the answers and you don't have them and you don't say anything, then that just leaves people in the dark. But let people know that you might not have all the answers. And I think that right there can go a long way when it comes to just, being able to understand what's happening in your organization. So let me ask you this. You mentioned, before, like, not staying silent, so that you don't be left behind. What are some really like practical communication strategies that somebody can utilize in the workplace during these times?
I have 4 things that I use, and I want everybody to get these because you can use them in every area of your life. The first thing is, are you listening to understand? Are you listening to respond? That's the first thing. And this is just effective communication skills that I'm about to share with you. The first thing, am I really listening to understand what my boss or what is going on in the climate? Or am I listening to be able to respond? Right?
Yeah, it's that's huge, because I know I'd be like, I'm ready to jump in.
The brain is automatically trained. If she says this or he says this, I'm going to be able to say this, right? But are you really listening to understand what your boss is saying, what the company is saying we're shifting to? Are you really listening to understand that? Are you listening to respond? Well, that's not fair to me, those kind of things. And it might not be that. Right. So listening to understand and not always to respond. The second thing is what I'm going to say out of my mouth. Do I have to say it right now? Is this the climate? Is this the situation? Is this the body of people that I need to say this to right now? Because sometimes when you're in a situation, you don't always need to speak at that time. It might not be the right time. Right. So is what I'm about to say out of my mouth, do I have to say it right now? Or can I pull my boss, supervisor, or whatever the situation is to the side and have a separate conversation, because it will turn out different? Right. Or do I need to blurt this out and get everybody else in an uproar when it's not a necessary thing at this time? So do I have to say this right here and right now? That's the second thing. And is what I'm about to say out of my mouth, right? Will I have to apologize for later? This is a hard one, because even if you're in the workplace, you can say things out of anger, out of lack of knowledge, right? Or that you didn't comprehend exactly how it was meant, right? And then you have to apologize. But once it's out there, yes, can you apologize? Can they accept your apology? But you can never take those words back.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had to learn that one right there.
I have had to learn that in every area of my life.
You know? Oh my goodness.
From work, with my clients, with my husband, with my
Yes.
children, with my girl, so all of those things. So that is something that, when you really step back and say, do I have to say that right now? That's why I put number 2, right? Do I have
Mhm.
to say this right now? And
Yeah.
is what I'm about to say out of my mouth, am I going to have to apologize for later? Right.
Yes. I mean, I
And
don't
then
have
the last thing is what I'm about to say out of my mouth, where in any situation, what I want them said back to me.
Mm.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. 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 I
That's
mean,
a
that
tough
is,
one, but I want those words
yeah.
said back to me.
Yeah. And I mean, that one goes back to like, almost like treat others like you want to be treated.
Treat it.
And
Yep.
so when you think about that, you're like, okay, if I'm saying that, if what if somebody said that to me, how would I feel? Right?
Yes. And especially when you're in a work environment, if you're challenging your boss, right? And you say something like, would you want your boss to say those things or embarrass you in a situation when you're with your coworkers or your higher ups? All those different kind of things you have to take into consideration. And like
Mhm.
I said, these 4 things you can utilize in every area of your life.
I love this. And so, you know, this leads me to my next question. How can like employees advocate for themselves without jeopardizing relationships or even opportunities that they may have? Because of course, you just talked about some really amazing communication strategies, and I think this is even more important during uncertain times. But I also believe what you said earlier is not to be silent, right? So that you're not left behind. So how can I, if I'm in this an environment, right? How can I advocate for myself without, feeling like I'm jeopardizing the relationships that I've already built in this organization?
Well, for me, I tell you not to operate with your head, to operate with your heart. And what do I mean by that? Whenever you're in a situation and you have a grievance, a disagreement, things are not going the way that you're going, I say go back to the company manual, sit down and come up with all your grievances, because you don't want to be all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at what the company says about each grievance that you have and go through the chain of command. This is sometimes hard, for the simple fact is it could be that you're not agreeing with your immediate supervisor. But my thing is go through the chain of command. For the simple fact is when you get to the top, they're going to ask the question, did you talk to so and so about that? And your answer is going to be yes, because you want to give each person, as you go up the chain of command, the opportunity to say what they need to do, adhere to the company policy, and help you out in that situation. But if you go directly and go over everyone's head, that puts you in a situation where you can put yourself in jeopardy,
Mm-hmm.
because you did not follow the chain of command, and the person might not even know that they, had you have an alt with them, you disagree with them, they said something to you or whatever. So I always say, come up with a plan and make sure that it's very clear. And when you go and speak to them, you start with your immediate boss and go up the chain of command, and don't skip that step. I know a lot of us like, I'm not going to talk to her. I'm going to no. But when you get in the HR situation, they're going to ask that question. And if you skip that step, then it's not going to be as, so you can say, yes, I talked to my boss. And then she didn't do anything, so I went to her, those kind of things. And then they have to act, because HR is the place that you is supposed to be an advocate for you and your grievances.
Yeah. No, I so wholeheartedly agree with you. You can't skip steps. You
You
can't skip
can't.
people, right, in the process. And so, building these workplace relationships can be difficult, but we all have to still advocate for ourselves, right? You still have to advocate for yourselves, but there's a way to do it. And
Correct.
if you go up the chain of command, that's really the way to do it. And I love what you said about leading with your heart and not with your head,
Did. Yeah.
right? I love the via character strengths
Yeah.
assessment,
Mhm.
and it assesses character strengths, and that reminds me of that. Like, leading with your heart may be a character strength that you have, and if you put that at the forefront of what you're doing, the hope is that the way you speak, the way you come off, your mannerism is more from here versus here.
Here.
Because when
Yeah.
you're coming from your head, you're like, you could be,
All
a
over the
boss
place, and
all over the
you
place.
can bring other situations that have nothing to do with your work environment into that. That's why I said lead with your heart and not your head, because your head would be like, well, I remember I let so and so get, and they don't even know about so and so getting involved in that situation or doing
Right.
the same kind of behavior. So that's the reason why I said lead with your heart, and
Mhm.
that way you can stay focused. And that's the reason why I also say have a game plan before you even go, so
Yeah,
that way you can stay focused and it can be organized.
I love that. So there are, right now, and anytime, but it just seems like these is all these is what we're talking about is heightened because of the things that are going on in our country and everything like that.
Mhm.
Um, there are a lot of workplace conflicts that are arising. It's because we think different. We've
Mhm.
always thought different in workplaces, right? Like
Mhm.
that's not anything new.
Mhm.
But right now, I think a lot of things are heightened because of the political environment and just everything that's going on in the country. So, what are some just real simple practical strategies to solve conflicts that may arise in the workplace? Because we need these skills.
Well, let me just tell you, there was two things growing up that my mother told me, and I'm going to pass this on. Politics and religion have no place in the workplace, even though it is something that it is a hot button
Mhm.
and we want to talk about them. But you never know what the person's background is. You never know what their political views are. And so as much as possible, when that is going on, I would say try not to engage, because that will open the door for, past hurts, past, lost elections, whatever that looks like, to come forth, and it can get out of control, and you can start viewing your coworker totally different than you did before you had that conversation. Because most people have a hard stance, right? Most people have a very hard stance on those two subjects, religion and politics, right? And right now politics is the big one, because it's affecting so many people's lives and how we show up. And people are afraid, if I show up to work, am I going to have a job? Are they going to fund my all of these different kind of things that are going on. So if possible, my thing is not to engage in that. Engage in what your specific job is, and don't focus in on what the government or what other people's opinions are of the current administration or past administrations, or those kind of things. And I know that it's hard, but again, you're there to do a job, not to talk about politics and religion and your personal feelings. And I know that's hard. Trust and believe me, because we're human, and something could be a trigger for you. But again, you never know who's listening, and you never know what their views are. And again, you want to be able to stay in the know and show up at the table. I'm not saying you can't listen. I just say don't engage. That's just
Mm.
my thing.
I like that strategy. I mean, like you said, I do think it can be quite difficult to not engage,
It
right?
is.
In this, right? Because we're going through so much in our economy and everything. But I do like the idea of you trying to focus on the job at hand, because at the end of the day, we all still have a job at hand, right?
Correct.
Still have um, a job to do. Um, so, what would you say to a person who is have dealing with a difficult relationship at work, um as it pertains to everything that's going on in our country today? What would you have them to do?
My thoughts are is have the conversation, pull the person out of their particular, see if you can get them out of that work environment and say, hey, can we go get a coffee? Can we go, whatever, and pull them to the side and say, I see that you and I are not on the same page, and I want to have this conversation with you first, right? I want to tell you how what you're saying, doing, or whatever makes me feel. Not point the finger, but this is how it makes me feel when you go off on your tangent about the government, our president, or whatever that elected official, or whatever that you have going on, right? This is how it makes me feel, right? Because I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Whatever that feels like for you, don't point the finger and say, well, you did this. No, when you say this, or you bring up this, it gets everyone around us riled up, and we're not able to finish, or I'm not able to focus, or whatever. So make sure you use I statements, and make sure you tell them how it makes you feel, and say, I came to have this conversation with you outside of the workplace, right? In order for us to try to see if we can resolve that. Because again, a lot of times people don't realize what their behavior is, how their behavior is affecting other people. They're just blurting stuff out. And then when other people join in, it just magnifies, right? And they don't look at the temperature of the room or the environment and say, we shouldn't be discussing this. This is not healthy. It's not, productive for the goal that we're trying and the reason why we're here. And so I would say start off with that person. Now, if that person is like, whatever, I don't care, I'm going to do, say whatever, that's when the chain of command, the next person you go to is maybe your supervisor, and say, hey, I tried to have a conversation with Dr. Kiki about how, her blurting out or whatever makes me feel. And it is to no avail. And it's affecting me being able to execute what I'm here for, which is whatever your particular job is.
Yeah, I love that. I think directness, to me, right, going straight to the source is the best way to solve a problem, right?
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people are maybe fearful or scared, or I think some people are passive aggressive, but at the end of the day, going directly to that person, I mean, it gives them the benefit of the doubt, and it really does help, you potentially strengthen the relationship. Okay, we're up. Man, I'm telling you, this conversation done went by so fast, but I have one last question.
Sure.
What is some advice that you would give leaders who are looking to strengthen their workplace relationships in this crazy, crazy world that we're dealing with?
My thing to leaders is be open and honest and transparent with your workforce. If you know something, say something if you're able to, but do not go and act, keep them in blind, because everybody is wanting to know. Mm-hmm. Everybody is wanting to understand, if they're going to have a job tomorrow. So if you know something, say something, right? But if you don't know something, at least say, hey, you guys, I want you guys to know that I'm monitoring. I'm trying to find out or whatever, because I hear the chatter, because I have the chatter in my head as well. So be transparent and let them know that you are being their supervisor and that you're on their side. Don't block them out. Don't have, do underhanded things to make them think that you're not on their side, that you're working against them. And a lot of times that's a hard place to be. But again, I think transparency, honesty, and being open with the people that are working for you, I think will take you farther than trying to hide things and not be transparent. If you don't know, say, I don't know, but I'm trying to find out. And that way they will continue to support you and be the staff that you need them to be.
I love that. I mean, I think transparency wholeheartedly is the way to go. I also think that during this time, it's even more important to, start building personal relationships, have coffee together, still have lunch together with people who you might have not had coffee. What Absolutely. People need to know is they just need to be reassured that everybody is human. Right.
They matter, and that you see them and still acknowledge that, mm-hmm. that they're there. Right. Mm-hmm. And we're all in this together. Right. This is the best time to build a team, loyalty, and transparency. This is the best time to do it.
This is the best time to do it. Y'all heard it from Dr. Gail Crowder. So tell us, before we hop off, what amazing things you have going on. How can we get in touch with you? How can anybody struggling with their workplace relationships or their intimate relationships get in touch with you?
Oh, you can find me on my social media, just at Gail Crowder, or my website, gailcrowder.com. It's just my name, GailCrowder. You can find me on all my social media platforms. And what do I have going on tomorrow, which is Valentine's Day? I will be releasing a masterclass called the Red Light Special. And it's really, really talking to wives on how to unleash their sexual side and show their husband something new. So
Woo!
that's what's going to be happening tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that. And it's just a masterclass on really getting confident with your own personal sexuality.
I love it. Yeah, ladies, y'all heard it, honey. Go ahead and go ahead and get it. Please follow Dr. Gail on all her social medias. She has some amazing things going on. There's some amazing things coming down the pike. Well, as always, friend, thank you so much for joining us on the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show. It's always so refreshing to have a conversation with you, especially around relationships, because you're just so knowledgeable and you's the expert.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure, and I had fun. So hopefully that your audience will just glean a little bit about being more open and understanding in the work environment, especially the climate that we're in.
Yes, absolutely. And so, listen, y'all, if you are looking for a space to just not only to get the tools and the strategies that you need to elevate your career or your business, I ask you to join the Thrive Society. Just go over to drkiki.com and click on the button for Thrive Society and join us there. As always, you have the opportunity to create your own happiness. I love you all. Take care. Peace.